Okay, this is the ugly side of doing nails. Removing bling or 3D art. Remember these nails that I did? Beautiful. I had so much fun doing those. You can check that video out. But today, I've got to remove them. It's a lot because it's obviously faster to take it off than to put them on, but it's a lot. There's 2 ways we can do it, and I'm going to start with first way, which is ripping them off. Little old-fashioned elbow grease. That's an old-fashioned term for working hard. So this is my favorite, nipper collection. I have the Hollow Taco Nipper collection. It's a great little book. And she's got a whole bunch of things in here. And these nippers that I have for my cuticles, I saved this special so it's nice and sharp for cutting around the cuticles or a little hangnail or anything that I want to cut away that might hurt if I have a dull nippers. Don't use your good set for this. Get out that old, ugly, icky pair that you're ready to toss away. That's what you're going to use to rip these off. Okay, so first, don't slip. Really know what you're doing when you're doing this. In other words, grab on really good and be really careful, because if you slip and you're putting a lot of pressure, you can hurt yourself. I start with the biggest piece. That's what I do. And this one is this bead here. Oh, that came out pretty good. So that's what I'll do. I'll just kind of nip them all away. See that? So what I'm doing is I'm just sort of grabbing, getting a little grip, and I'm doing a little twist. It's coming out pretty good. And this is what I'm talking about. When you get to the cuticle and you're ripping off these, be careful you don't slip and go boom into your cuticle. Be really careful about that, okay? Yeah, these are coming off pretty nicely. So what I'll do is I'll go around and get the big bulk of it. It's always such a bummer taking off pretty nail art. But, you know, wiping that canvas clean so I can do something new. So these ones are harder to grip because they are much tinier. But you can see how it can ruin a good pair of nippers, eh?
Is it necessary to remove all the bling if you're going to just take the nail off?
Oh, yeah, no. If you're going to remove it and you don't care about the nail, yeah, you could just remove a little pathway here so you can get your drill, or you could take the drill right at it and go at it if you want. But if you want to preserve the nail underneath, you want to do it this way, right? So there's 2 ways to remove it. And that's the second way I'll talk about, which will destroy the entire thing. So yeah, if I want to keep the nail that I put on here underneath, I'm just focusing on removing the bling, right? But yeah, you're right, Cameraman. If you don't care about the nail that's underneath, then yeah, you could just motor through with an E-file. Or you could take a little pair of nippers here, and you could go in and just cut, right? But that's only if you want to get rid of the nail. All you gotta do is find a little edge. And it's easy to do with bling, unless it's like a pearl or a bubble. Fuller circles are a little harder, but that came out pretty good. You can just grab it, you just wrench on it. See, they're coming up pretty good. Just getting yourself just a little bit under it so you can get it. This one's going to be stubborn. See, I'm pulling away from my cuticle. Oh, that just flew off. That one's going to be stubborn. There we go. So remember that in the video, you'll see that I put a blob of builder gel. And that's what this is nestled into. So it's not nestled into the fake nail. It's actually into the lump of builder gel that I put on there. Okay, so it's coming. Okay, so we got the majority. I'll get this one more off. There we go. I got the majority.
Those were not going to fall off, that's for sure.
No, they were on there pretty good. As you can see, they were on there pretty good. Okay, so there's all the beauty laying in there. That's the ugly side of this whole thing. Okay, so now we can buff up the rest, but I do recommend wear a mask And watch your eyes too. I mean, if you have protective goggles, you can do that too, because once you start filing away these bits, they just like fly around the room, right? And you've got the e-file, so it's got a little speed. Okay, so now I'm going to get my file, and I'm going to get my bulk and sculpt, because we're going to dig through some builder gel in here. So now we're just going to mow through this. So just like I say, make sure you watch your eyes. We're taking away all the bumps now, and any small gem will just get swept up and scooped away. You can see that, eh? See how it's coming nice and clean. There's some beads over here I didn't get. Let's file them right out. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's just check this out now and see if we can just do the rest when hand filing. You don't want to file too deep, because if you do, you might file right through your tip or the nail or whatever you used, right? So I'm just going to get my files out, and we're just going to clean it up. So I'm just going down in grits from coarse to medium to fine. Just getting rid of all those little bits there. Then I'll take my sanding sponge, go over top of the whole thing. Go over top of the whole thing. Now this is preserving the tip underneath, right? Okay, take a little duster. And we want to put a little bit of oil. Okay, so get a little oil there, massage it all in, get it underneath. Okay, look at that. Okay, right back to where it was before we put the bling on. So that's just taking off the bling alone. If you want to take bling off, you can take off a little bit of bling and then just kind of etch the top coat layer, what do you got there, just to etch it a little bit with a file like a coarse, and then you can soak it in acetone. That's what I've got here. Let's just show you that. The reason why you need to etch it a little bit or buff it up a little bit is because acetone wants to get inside of the product, and if you buff it a little, it breaks the seal on that layer coat, on the top layer, and then it can bust right through. So if you still got a few beads on there and you kind of buff it up a little bit, and soaking it in some acetone can also take it off. So this situation, we've got most of it off. Just so I can stick this in a little further, I'm just going to cut off some length here. And that can help your process a little bit quicker too. So there we got rid of some length. I'm going to go ahead and buff this up. I did put some oil on it. That shouldn't really hinder it because it is still pretty buff. I didn't make it very smooth, and I didn't seal it with any top coat. So you just buff it up, pretend there's a few beads on there like I had before. You got it buffed up, and then you can just put it in some, oh, I'm going to make this a little taller. I got a little glass jar here. Now acetone works faster if it's warmer. So if your space is very cold, oop!
I think it's full.
I was watching the monitor to make sure I was in the frame. Okay, it's full. Now it's going to go really full when I stick my finger. So then you just stick your finger in it, make sure that it is submerged right up to the product. Now the acetone will draw a lot of moisture out of the hand because it removes 99.9% oil. So it's going to draw it out of your skin, but you can replenish it back very quickly once you put some oil on it. So don't be alarmed if it's kind of white. So this is the boring part. This is what I hate about using acetone for removal. It's boring. You got to wait, and it's boring. I could just file it off, but it's totally boring. I did mention it's boring, right? So this is what you got to do. Now, like I say, if it's a little bit warmer, I wouldn't heat it in the microwave, but you can actually sit it inside a warm bowl of water. So I could put this in a bowl of water and sit it inside to heat the temperature of the acetone. It just works a little quicker if it's warmer. So if it's colder, it does take a little bit longer. So I can already see it starting to break down a little bit. So what it does is the acetone soaks into the acrylic or soft gel. In that case, I'm using hybrid gel underneath. So it's going to break down everything. So if you want to preserve your nail, you're going to take your bling off and preserve your nail, the fake nail, do not soak it in acetone because you'll destroy the nail, even the tip. It'll destroy the tip. It'll destroy acrylic. And most will build gels that are acetone friendly to get removed by acetone. It'll destroy the fake nail completely, right? So if you want to preserve that nail, don't soak it in acetone. You're just going to have to take it off like I just did the first part of this video. But if you want to get rid of the whole thing, then you can soak it in acetone. So acetone, I started to tell you that. I get sidetracked so easy. Acetone works like, Doug Schoon actually explained it really, really well. If you put a roll of paper towel in a bucket of water and you just let it sit there, the water soaks up into the paper towel. And if you notice, the paper towel will just start to fall away. It still can be in, pieces, but it doesn't dissolve it completely. It just melts it away. So it comes off in layers. Your paper towel will just float away. That's what this is doing. So the fake nail part, acrylic, whatever you're using, hybrid gel, bloats up with the acrylic and it just pushes it away. So that's what it's doing. So what we tend to do, and this is where it gets a little bit, you got to be careful with this part. So look at that. Ooh, looky there. It's so ugly. But it starts to harden up once it hits the air. But you can see, look at that. That tip, that's the tip. The tip is melting away fast. Wow, look at that. The tip is almost, and I look surprised. I'm not faking that. I am surprised. I don't think I've ever soaked off a tip. Again, you guys, I hate soaking. So tips come off pretty easy, and even in cold Canada. Okay, so I'm going to shove it back in there again. So when you're scraping, just make sure the last little bits you're not scraping off of your natural nail. You just don't want to start scraping away at the natural nail. That's another reason why I don't really like soaking in acetone. However, even if you file it, you can file away the last little bits off of your natural nail, which probably do more damage than scraping. So you still got to know what you're doing. So I'm just leaving it in there a little bit. See, if I was filing it, it'd be almost filed off by now. And that's why I like it. It's so much faster. So, especially if I'm filing a lift on one finger, why I'm not soaking it off? Because I can file it off way faster than soaking off a lifted nail. Don't forget, if it's lifted, it's already halfway off. So filing it's no big deal. Look at that. Okay, so now I think it's starting to get into the hybrid gel part. And I'm assuming that maybe that's still tip.
Oh, I think it'll take a long time to soak that tip right off. Longer than we want to wait.
I told you, it is boring and it's not fun and it's not nice and it's not creative. It's not nothing.
You better put on some movies or something.
What do you want to watch? How about Breakfast Club? Find something good to watch. Ferris Bueller, stay off. It wouldn't take quite that long, but... Okay, that's the tip. Now it's starting to get into the hybrid gel.
How can you tell?
I'm guessing. That's my professional. Because the tip was really milky and white, and now the pink, my Easy Gel is quite pink, and I can see that now it's getting pink. All the white is gone, so now I'm scraping off little tiny layers of the pink underneath. Okay, after soaking it and scraping it and soaking it and scraping it and file it in between scraping it and soaking it, I've got it down to a thin layer. I've scraped most of it off. Look at, I'm down to the last little bits of layer. Now with me, I always like to actually leave a little thin layer, so I just might do that.
And why do you do that?
To protect, because I do my nails constantly. Like I do them at least once a week, sometimes 4 or 5 times a week, depending on the design, right? So I always leave a thin layer to protect my natural nail, because if I keep going down to my natural nail every single time, I'm going to take a little bit of that natural nail off if I get, especially if you're working with any glitter or colored product. It'll lay on there and you've got to get, and it's really hard to pinpoint that exact spot to get it off. So you can take a chance, and you will file it too thin. So by leaving a nice thin layer, it helps me protect. So I put all the nails that I'm doing on top of that thin layer, and my natural nail is never disturbed.
Sounds like a good plan.
It is a good plan. I've been doing it for years. Actually, when colored acrylic came in is when we learned it. Well, when I learned it. So when colored acrylic came in, I love it. It's beautiful. But if you put it directly on the nail, it'll stain it. So the next time the client would come in 4 or 6 weeks later, you're buffing it off because they want to change the color. Maybe they've had a dark color, a red or a green or a black or something really deep, and it stains the nail. If you go to put a lighter color like a nude, you can't get rid of that stain without over-filing the natural nail. So then I learned to just put a thin layer of a nude or a pink or a clear acrylic, because acrylic, that's what we were doing in the 80s and 90s before the gel came tumbling in. And I would just put a thin layer and I would file down to it. Only for the clients that were changing their color all the time. A lot of clients back in the 80s and 90s, they were just doing pink and whites or naturals or nudes and stuff like that. But when the colors came in, we started to learn that, you know what, I'd much better put a layer down there or I'm going to cause a lot of pain to the customer. So here we go. I got a, oh yeah, look at that. It's mushing right. See that? It's mushing. It's just a thin, thin layer left. Okay, so that's as low as I'm going to go for me because I really want to preserve this natural nail. I don't want to file too deep because I put so much nails on. Okay, so I am going to just buff this with my nice sanding sponge. Make it nice and happy. It is super, super thin. It is probably, I suspect, maybe just a tad thicker than a coat of nail polish. That's how thin this layer of product is on here. Okay, just get a lot of bit of oil on there, massage it around. And you can see just by the colorization that I always mess that word up. Remember I said discolorization? There is no word discolorization. I just made it up. So it is a little discolored. And you can see that because you can see the blood supply quite happy through here. That means the product is probably just a little bit thicker right through here, right? Okay, so massage it all up and there we go. Lovely. So I'm ready to go for some more nails on there. You said, well, that doesn't take that long. Actually, you can do it pretty quickly. Whether you're soaking, well, soaking takes longer. I did probably just as much winding as I did soaking. I'll tell you, I had much more fun putting these on than I did taking them off. You want to catch that video how I put them on? Check it out. Much more glamorous.